We're live. Let me just tweet out the links and then we can get started. I'm just putting the GCs just. All right, let's begin. Hello and welcome to another episode of Ringside Fracas. I'm your host Naeem, and today I'm joined by a special guest. We've got. You want to introduce yourself, bro? I was going to give you the opportunity.
No, sorry,
I was going to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself.
Oh no, Mark. I guess a lot of people would call me Sarfo, surname, and whatnot. Technically, I'm not really a special guest, and I'm just part of the furniture, but just not.
You're special, bro. You're special. Trust me, you're a special guest.
I'm part of the furniture, but just not seen. Yeah. So
yeah. But this week is special because you're us two are the ones that are talking about the big fight that's on this week. We're the ones that actually we've been excited about the fight that's going to happen this week. So that's why I say you're a special guest, because you're the expert that we have. Me and you are going to be the experts on this fight. So
okay, fair
it's
enough.
a pleasure to have you on, bro. And hopefully we're going to get you more on in the future. And speaking on in the future, we've got a heavyweight debate podcast. I'm in there's no scheduled date yet, but I'm in the sort of sorting that out. But when that gets sorted out, please look on for updates on our Twitter. And we're going to get into all the stuff about Fury Usyk, AJ Franklin, all the heavyweight stuff. And I know last time when we had that heavyweight debate pod, it kind of got a bit hectic. We want to do it again because I think it's the right time. So have a look out for that. But Mark, thank you for joining us. And we've got a bit of a packed week. It's been a bit lackluster in the last few weeks. We had Jake Paul Fury, which, nothing you can say about that. Last week, we had O'Hara Davis knocking out Lewis Ritson. We also had Figueroa beating Mark Magsayo. But in British boxing, it's been now a bit fairly stale. We had sort of Wood Lara. Would you count Paul Fury as a British type of boxing fight because of the timings?
That's an exhibition. That's not a fight. That's an
exhibition.
Fair
enough.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of stale. It's kind of picking up a bit again, but I've been looking at the schedule because this week we were meant to have Callum Smith versus Stepien, even though that's not a fight I was looking eager to, but it's Callum Smith anyway, and obviously that got called off because Callum got injured. But it's getting back end because we've got a lot of fights to we've got 2 fights to go over this week, and actually we've got some news going on in the British boxing world. So let's get started. The first thing I want to go through is the fight down under. Tim Tszyu will be taking on Tony Harrison for the vacant WBO interim junior middleweight title. So Tim Tszyu was meant. So let me just give the history. Tim Tszyu was meant to fight Jamal Charlo for the undisputed belts, but Jamal had a bicep injury, and Tim Tszyu said, "I'm not waiting for Jamal. He can take as long as he wants. I want an interim fight in between." So the WBO mandated this fight between him and Tony Harrison, which I think is a brilliant fight. I think this situation couldn't have gone any more perfect for Tim Tszyu. If you want someone to prepare so that it helps you make sure that you're at the level that you need to beat an elite fighter, and he is an elite fighter, Jamal Charlo, then I think Tony Harrison's the perfect fight. When that fight got announced, me and Mark were the first 2 guys in the GC talking about it, and we were all on it, like in terms of how good this fight was, what a potential banana peel this fight could be. And I mean, it's just a brilliant fight. So Mark, I'm going to come to you first. Tim Tszyu versus Tony Harrison. Give me your thoughts.
It's a tricky one because when you look at Tony Harrison, he's lost to Willie Nelson, lost to Charlo, obviously, lost to Hurd as well. So he's lost to top quality opposition, and there's been a common denominator about the way he loses. So he's not necessarily getting outboxed or whatnot. He's just sort of gassing out. He's sort of like blowing his tank, and it's going to be difficult because Tim Tszyu, he's not there to try and box. He's gonna throw the kitchen sink, and it's going to be an interesting clash of styles because Tony Harrison, he's very slick, very, very slick. He's quite pragmatic as well. So he can outbox you, but can also be defensive at the same time. So it's going to be interesting as well, man. And also as well as like it's going to show us where Tim Tszyu is actually at in terms of levels, because everyone he's fought has been sort of like the equivalent to sort of like domestic level or European level. I know like Australia's in like where it is, but it's not. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's the equivalent to what we would say over here as like British level, European level. So it would be interesting because to go from that level to Charlo is it's a huge step, a huge step. So it's definitely going to be an interesting fight, and also as well it gives Harrison like one last chance to get back into sort of the title mix, because he's a tricky customer, man.
Yeah, yeah, very tricky. He's one of the guys that we've looked at, in that entire 154 division, and just in terms of technical ability, he's one of the trickiest guys there. He's probably one of the best guys
Mm,
out there. And for Tim, like you said, it's his last fight was Terrell Gausha, and I think that was his best sort of opponent that he's faced to date. That's not a guy, like you said, that you want to go in and fight Jamal Charlo with. Tony Harrison's the perfect litmus test.
yeah,
If you can look good, and if you can produce a career best performance and even knock out Tony Harrison better
yeah,
than Jamal Charlo could ever do, you give yourself this advantage going into that fight because you have now more momentum, you're more
mm,
active, everything's kind of on your side. Look, I beat the guy that beat you and I
yeah,
knocked him out. So,
yeah. But the
but
only
it's
thing I
interesting.
would say though, the only thing I would say is now like he's coaching Alicia Baumgart, and people might just say
Yeah,
he's fell off, he's declined, he's not necessarily concentrating on his own career. So it's like you can't it's like a lose-lose situation. Well, technically it's not like a lose-lose situation, but it's like even if you win, there's still going to be people saying or have an excuse as to why he isn't quite ready. So he's in a situation where you may need to like dig out like a career best to just to get people's ears perked and show what he's about.
yeah, exactly. I was literally going to go into that point. The fact that I think Tony Harrison's the perfect banana peel, but the issue is that is he still committed to boxing 100%?
Mm,
Because obviously he's now a trainer that does, like you said, take away from your time, and also he's kind of bit on. I think he's like 32, 34. I think
yeah, yeah.
he's a bit on. He's a
So
bit on it.
he fought. He was like 28 when he fought Charlo, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and while technical ability is something that doesn't leave you for a long time, it's still if some things in your physical ability kind of diminish, you see the
yeah,
returns in your next few
yeah,
fights, and you can only tell that from like Tony Harrison would only know from his training camps, and then in the fight, we can only tell from the fight what will happen. But for Tim Tszyu, what I've seen was I remember I was watching his Gausha fight again yesterday.
mm,
The issue that he had a lot with Gausha was early on was the jab. He was struggling with the jab. The jab was really getting to him. It was troubling him, and he wasn't really setting much up to get behind it. But the thing with Gausha was eventually he was letting Tony get into the range, go to the body, because not Tony, sorry, Tim, because Tim loves to come forward. He wants to go to the body, but he also wants to go to the head. Like you said, he wants to fight you. He wants to pressure, but he needs to work on cutting off the ring because with a guy like Tony Harrison, how technical he is, he'll be able to use that jab perfect, and
yeah,
he'll be able to pick up so many early rounds where maybe he won't hurt Tim at any point,
yeah,
but he'll just take the rounds away where he's banked up such an early lead where only has to do in the last half of the fight, he has to win like 1 or 2 rounds and
yeah.
he'll win the fight. It's
To be fair,
difficult because
Tony Harrison's got underrated power. I think he's got like 23 knockouts in about like 29, 30 fights. So he does have a bit of pop. I think with Harrison, he does this thing where he looks like he's not doing much, but he's doing a lot.
yeah,
So like he might just sort of like lay on the ropes, and then he might just slide and slip, and he might just catch you with like 2 or 3 shots. And when I was watching the Charlo fight, um, people were surprised that he got that decision. But when you look at it back, yeah, he landed with much more effective shots. Like
yeah,
he landed with much more quality shots. Just because he wasn't throwing them in bunches and he wasn't sort of necessarily loading up, it doesn't necessarily mean that he wasn't throwing the quality shots. He was like he used Charlo's momentum and aggression against him, and I think that's one thing that Tony's really good at,
yeah,
like sort of like countering and what. And I think like I can't remember the statistics, but that he that jab as a range finder throughout the whole fight, and he just kept pinging off Charlo's head. So it's going to be interesting to see like how Tim sort of like navigates it, because Tim kind of comes forward in like straight lines. It's not necessarily like educated pressure. It's more sort of like following you around the ring and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting to see like how he sort of like navigates that.
Yeah, and the things he has to kind of do is work on cutting off the ring better with his footwork, because your footwork really matters a lot, especially with his shot selection is quite good, but it's the footwork. He needs to be a bit more better than just plodding forward, and
Yeah,
following fighters, be able
yeah,
to get first to get on the angle and then make them turn into the ropes, and also go to the body early, invest in the body early.
yeah,
Tony Harrison's in long fights has had real issues, like taking it long.
yeah.
Um, but
I
if
think
he goes,
with
you're going.
Harrison as well, yeah, he enjoys being on the back foot. I think the problem is when he has to be proactive and he has to take the fight
Yeah,
to you. That's when like he's not necessarily at his best, because that's when he empties out his tanks and he has to throw like combinations and whatnot. But I think with him, he has been reactive rather than proactive. So he doesn't mind like laying on the ropes and finding like a counter and then sort of like pivoting and then starting again and whatnot. As long as he can pop that jab and just stay busy off that jab, he's fine with that.
yeah, and the reaction that I've gotten from like looking at Twitter, people's predictions been, even yours as well, is that Harrison actually is the favorite for them in this fight. That the
Yeah, yeah.
style's just
The
all
bookies, the
wrong.
bookies got it as Tim Tszyu as the favorite. If you're not into gambling, like it makes sense because Tim Tszyu's picked up the momentum, and he's got the momentum behind him in terms of he's got the zero and he's got picked up X amount of wins back
Yeah,
consecutively. But yeah, it's an interesting one because when you look at it in terms of like ability and like attributes, yeah, you I personally lean towards Harrison on points just because of his
yeah,
ability. But I think it's either Harrison on points or a stoppage for Tim Tszyu, like ninth, 10th. I think those are the only two ways I can see it going.
yeah. And I think the reason why he's probably the favorite is because mainly they're looking at the Australian
Mm,
perception, and the fact that he's
yeah,
such a big star. It would make sense that he's a favorite, because if it is like American, if you
yeah,
look at the American market, maybe not, he wouldn't be such a favorite. Tony would be
yeah,
favorite. But and also with Tim, he's got such a big responsibility on his shoulders. The fact that his father's cost Tszyu one of the best
yeah,
140-pound fighters um, ever. But he's one of the guys, like Chris Eubank Jr. or
yeah. He stepped out of his
Conor.
father's shadow, isn't it? Like he's made his own lane.
Yeah. He's never like, because he rarely brings up his dad. I think like it's just always just about just getting in there and fighting.
Yeah,
Well, the other guys has always been about kind of their dad, and
yeah,
they make these
yeah,
big claims. But with Tim, has always been, I'm just going to fight, and then the next guy, and then he'll talk about the
yeah,
next guy, whoever that is, and it's a good thing for him. But
yeah,
yeah, like you said, I think with Tim, he needs a career best performance, and
yeah,
or else anything else is just wouldn't be, even if he wins, whether it's a decision and it's a close fought-out fight. The next fight obviously is against Jamal Charlo for the undisputed belts, and you need to make a statement if you want to have
yeah.
any chance of winning that fight. So
Yeah, I think Harrison as well. He doesn't mind being the underdog. Like he's been the underdog his whole career. Like he's been the underdog his whole career. So he doesn't mind going into someone's backyard and everyone booing him and whatnot. He loves it. In fact, it probably spurs him on. Like he's one of those fighters where someone like O'Hara Davis, where they get a little buzz out of it. Like it kind of like kicks them on. Like it makes him want to perform better because they want to shut up the crowd.
yeah, and the thing with Harrison is he's also got his own motivation, because he wants to chase that trilogy match with Charlo.
Yeah,
He wants to prove
yeah,
that me winning wasn't a fluke. Like, I want to fit, and also obviously undisputed belts. Everyone wants to become
yeah,
undisputed, but it's also that I want to make sure that I beat him
yeah.
again, and no one can question whether or not I can beat him or
And
not, or
even
what.
even that second fight, I think he might have been up on the cards as well by the time he got knocked out. I think he
Yeah,
was up on the card. So I think that's another reason why he probably feels like he needs this Charlo fight, because he beat him the first time and he was he pretty much boxing Charlo's head off again in the second fight. And
yeah,
he did it in a way where he was aggressive this time. He wasn't necessarily on the back foot like the first fight. He was a bit more sort of proactive. So I think that he has more reason to want the trilogy.
yeah. But the thing with Tim, I'd say, is Tim is kind of new blood, fresh blood in
Mm,
the division. Him and Fundora, and I kind of want to see them against Charlo. Not because I think they're going to beat Charlo, but I think
Yeah,
it's a different look, and you'd see how
yeah,
Charlo fares against them if he does stay in the division for long or not, wherever the case is. I mean, his brother's not doing anything anytime soon, so. But at least with Tim Tszyu, we've got a boxer who has the attitude. I'll fight anyone, because he could have said no. Let me wait for Charlo, but he went. Let me fight Harrison. It's a good fight, and I know people then start to give me credit if I beat him. Look at Fundora. He beat Lubin, and now he's kind of just waiting for when
yeah.
Tim Tszyu and Charlo are finished, and then he'll maybe take his chance then,
He's a
because he's
bloody
got the
freak, by the
intro.
way. He's actually a freak. That guy. I don't understand how he makes that weight. I don't understand how he makes that weight.
It's
He said
crazy.
he could go down as well, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
He said he could go down a weight.
Yeah, he said he can make 147 apparently.
He's fake. He's so fake.
He's weird because he's 6'4", and you'd imagine, 6'4", he's taller than everyone in the division by a mile. He uses his reach, right? No, he likes to get on the inside.
He's the phone booth file. He wants to.
Yeah.
Reach he doesn't even understand the concept of reach. He doesn't understand it. Like he wants to be on your chest and just bang away. Like he's a freak.
It's crazy when you see him outside of boxing. He doesn't seem like a guy that will be on your chest and bang you. He just looks normal. Like he looks like a kid. He looks normal, and he's just a monster and a killer. But him, like I said, him, those are the new fresh blood that are kind of on that level where they're gonna fight Charlo. I think Sebastian Fundora's had his sort of world level moment when he beat Lubin, and it was what a fight that was. And that's what Tim
candidate for fight of the year. Well, that year, of course, but crazy fight.
I know Dr. Leroy was pissed, man, because Lubin's his guy, and he was getting his face was changed.
Yeah. Dr. Leroy, he's been championing Lubin for a while, and I understand why, because when you look at him, he's a quality fighter. Sometimes things just don't go your way. Like in that fight against Charlo, he got stopped in the first round or something like that. Second round.
His chin got caught. His chin got caught.
Something crazy, man.
But that fight with Fundora, and that gave Fundora a lot of momentum because of the way he got knocked down, but he went to war and he battered, he changed his face, and everyone thinking, well, okay, maybe he doesn't beat Charlo, but if he goes to war with Charlo, what does that look like? And can Charlo sustain? So Tim Tszyu, he's got a big fight ahead of him. He's got to show something different. That's going to make us think, you know what, if he fights Charlo, he could give it.
And Tony Harrison said something quite interesting, like in the face-off. He said something about like what happens when you got to dig deep, because he's never been in that situation. Like he said, do you even have a bag to dig deep in? Like he says, like what happens when you have to sort of like draw for like the inner dog in you? Like we've never seen you in that situation. So I definitely want to see like a situation where Tim Tszyu has to dig deep and see what he's about, because a lot of times like these fighters are getting things their own way. Like sometimes like you learn more from a fighter when things aren't going their way. So I definitely want to see what Tim Tszyu about.
Yeah, I'd say in the Gaucher fight when he got knocked down in the first round, I wouldn't say he dug deep, but it was like, my American debut didn't go the way I wanted. Straight away.
But it's the first round, isn't it? You've got
that's
a lot of time to recover, in it.
Yeah, so and we'll see if Tony Harrison, the talk he's talking, we'll see if
let's see what he's about
on that, because bro, anytime I won't say father time, but your body starts giving out on you, you notice that in the ring significantly. So
what's your prediction on the fight then?
I'm leaning like you. I'm kind of leaning towards. I think if it goes points, I think Tim Tszyu will just do enough to nick it, and especially because it's in Australia as well. I'm taking that into consideration. I think Tim Tszyu will do more than enough to get it. But if he gets a stoppage, I'll be really surprised, and I'll be really surprised.
I think I'm gonna go. Do you actually know what? I'm gonna say Tony's gonna box Tim Tszyu's head off, but lose it on points. So Tim Tszyu on points, but it's gonna be controversial.
So robbery.
No, not necessarily. Robbery's a big word. Let's just say debatable one. Do you know what I want?
Controversial.
Yeah.
That's fine. Okay, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. I think Tim's heavy-handed, but I just think Tony will be able to take that. But we'll see. And I think what holds in the future for both of them is going to be exciting, and I can't wait. Can't wait to see what happens. Speaking of exciting things, Conor Benn went on Piers Morgan. I mean, this saga, I don't know how many episodes we've done talking about this, but this saga sort of dragged on for a bit. And he recently went on Piers Morgan to give an interview. What the interview was for, what the purpose was, I couldn't tell you because as a fan watching it, I didn't get anything out of it. In fact, it made him look worse rather than look better, or he presented something new to the public that wasn't seen before. So in that interview, I mean, the first thing, and I remember Lewis in the group chat pointed this out, and it's a good point. It was the worst platform to go to. Boxing fans, we're a fickle group, and we hate certain people. Piers Morgan's one person that's not really quite liked amongst the boxing community. His platform's been used a lot for people that have not been liked amongst any community. Like you've had guys like that Andrew Tate guy on. Who else has he had on? He's had quite a lot of guys, like Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah,
exactly there. So it's not the best platform to go to if you want to look good. But he went on it thinking he would get, I don't know, whatever he would say. And there was no evidence, there was nothing. All he really said was, so Piers questioned him, okay, so you've got this 270-page dossier that you said you sent to the WBC, and the WBC have said, you're fine. They've said they've put you back in their rankings. But why won't you give that to the sanctioning body so that you can get a pro license to fight in the UK? And he's like, well, no, they can do one. And he was like, I don't need to show them anything. And he was like, I'm probably not going to fight in the UK again. He's got a problem with the board. He says that someone's trying to set him up at the board. It just came off very conspiracy theorist, and also there were some holes in his logic. Like, you have this dossier. What do you make it for if you're not going to use it to try exonerate yourself? I think that's the word. Yeah. So, and if you have this pride against it, why are you doing all this? Like, why are you doing this press run of going to the interviews, doing these tweets and ever, if you don't care enough to exonerate yourself, you're not going to work with the sanctioning and all that. What are your thoughts on the interview itself and Conor Benn's the whole saga that's unfolded?
I think he's scoring a PR own goal. Like, if you realize, and I think Lewis said this as well. Like, you don't really necessarily see Eddie Hearn with Conor Benn anymore, or discussing the matter. Like, he seems to have taken a back seat, and it seems like Conor's he's just on his own like journey. Like, he just seems to be on a warpath to shout and scream and talk to whoever will listen to him. There doesn't seem to be like a strategy behind what he's doing, and every time he speaks, like he just comes off worse. Like, even when he's not speaking, even when he's tweeting, he's just becoming more unlikable. It's like he just entered like this villain arc, and he's just willing to do anything to become unlikable. It's just not helping his cause. Again, like you mentioned, you've got this 200 and whatever, however many pages it is, and you're withholding it for what reason? And even then, the report said something like, it took the board ages to get rid of, like, it took the board ages to get like his samples because he just wouldn't give it to them. And it's just like, why? Like, everything he's doing just doesn't make any sense. And to be fair, like in the public, in the opinion of the public, you always, once you're found guilty, you're guilty. Like, it's going to be hard to overturn it in the eye of the public. So he's weird. I find what he's doing very weird. I mean, ideally, what he should have done, just lay low for 6 months, like Canelo, like Dillian White, like Tyson Fury. I mean, they've all like failed drug tests, but no one really brings it up just because the way they went about it, the way they just laid low for about 6-7 months. But Conor Benn just, at any opportunity, just wants to pop up, like, and it makes no sense.
Yeah, and that's the thing that you said about the public. That in the court of public opinion, especially when it comes to drug tests, you're normally guilty, and they won't look at you any other type of way. But the thing about boxing fans is our memories are very short. Our memories are short. Like, Canelo literally had a super fight with Triple G. Yeah. After that fight, he got found out that he took clenbuterol.
Did Canelo fail 2 or 1?
I forgot how many tests he failed, but he
failed.
I think
he failed 2.
Let me see. But I know he failed after the what's it? The Triple G super fight. You're thinking, a super fight like Triple G. Yeah, 2 drug tests. Yeah, one in February 17th and one in February 20th in 2018.
That's shocking.
So that's after the fight.
Again, but it's like not many people know that because he just went under the radar for a bit.
Yeah,
Like,
but that's what I'm saying. Like it was a super fight because remember when Canelo Triple G came out, we called that a super fight because of how big it was. Obviously, the 2 fighters that we had, the amount of press that was on it, the amount of eyes. Even the casuals were watching that, and for that to happen, something big. Same thing here. Eubank banging, not as big, but it was huge in the UK. Loads of eyes on it, and then people see this. But what Canelo did was obviously he worked with everyone. I think Canelo took it. I don't think there's anything, but I have no evidence, so I can't say anything like that. But Canelo worked with the sanctioning bodies. He worked with the governing bodies. He worked with that, and he gave this evidence that it was from the Mexican meat, that it was contaminated and whatnot. And also, what they did was he didn't argue with anyone over it, anyone outside of the sanctioning body or the governing body. He didn't go on Twitter and start tweeting like he said. He didn't do all these bullshit interviews. He just let the matter sort of fade away. The only time it got brought up was during the Plant fight build-up, where Plant was saying you took drugs and then you punched him for that. But okay, that built the fight, so fair enough. But with Conor, it's sort of like I need to prove to everyone that I didn't take it, and anyone that takes it, they're a hater and they're on the opposite side. And it's sort of like you said, me against the world. It's pushing everyone out, and he just keeps bringing it up because, like you said, if he just kept quiet, did what he needed to do, people would have forgot. This saga would have been over by now, and in June he would have had a fight announced. Obviously, they're trying to do the Pacquiao fight now, which is a load of crap. But it just doesn't make sense to like go on this interview and then your PR team doesn't even prep you for the interview. Firstly, like he looked so unprepared, like in terms of what to say, because all his logic, whatever his aim was to do from that interview, it backfired completely. Like it backfired, not just for us, our point of view. You go on Twitter and you go on boxing Twitter, you see all of their perspectives. They didn't like what they saw.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there's even like a line. I think there's something like, "I'm 27. Why do I need more testosterone?" What? Like, do you know what I mean? I wouldn't do this to my dad. Like it's like people who take drugs don't care about like their dads and their testosterone level. They do it because they just want to win.
But also it's a sport where even the little 1% boost means everything. So
exactly.
I'm not sympathetic, but I get it. I get why people take PEDs.
Yeah,
it's understandable. And then that whole excuse of my family, you know me, I wouldn't do it, but we don't know your family. No one knows your family outside of your close friend.
Yeah.
Like people from the outside don't know anything.
Like, what? And just like also as well, the risk to reward. So like say like he takes whatever, he beats Eubank, whatever, that sets him up for like some massive paydays. So you can understand why someone would take drugs because the reward of the benefits and whatnot is huge. Like it's crazy, life changing.
Yeah, and but it's just the way he's come off is really sort of, especially when Eubank lost and he started filming himself. Imagine what would have happened with me. People thinking, because you would have been on drugs, you would have been on PEDs, mate. Imagine what would happen with you. Like, what the hell? Like, what do you expect? So, like, I don't know what he expects, and I hope that I'd say I want this issue to be resolved, but the problem is with boxing, there's no actual proper resolution because of how corrupt the system is. I mean, I remember a year, I think it was not this last November, the November before or September. Remember, Oscar Valdez fought that Conceição guy.
Yeah.
Like on the week of, he failed a drugs test, blamed it on T, and still got to fight and win and keep his belt. Like, the system's so crap in boxing where people can do this regularly and get away with it. So Conor Benn's no exception. He needs to stop acting like he's some exception. He's just another guy that's taking it. Act like you're another guy that's taking it. So this whole saga just goes away. Because like you said, even Eddie Hearn's kind of tired of this and wants to move on because he's seen it multiple times in boxing and he knows how this plays out. But Conor's like, this guy's just acting like it's his first rodeo in boxing. Like he doesn't know what to do and he's just panicking. He's just going to do whatever he can to get anyone on his side. So
I think in the back of Conor's head, I think he just doesn't care. Like he does care, but he also doesn't care. Like the way he's gone about it and talking about like the Manny Pacquiao fight and whatnot. He's yeah, man. I think in his head he's just accepted like I'm never gonna be seen as innocent or whatever. Let me just try and make as much. Let me just try and make the big fights as much as I can and whatnot,
Yeah.
and I'll sail away into the sunset.
What do you think about that Pacquiao fight?
I think it's bullshit. And I say this because I've always said this about Conor Benn. He's always chasing people that are past their prime
Yeah.
or just like completely declined. There isn't obviously it's going to be harder to make fights with him now, but there hasn't been a period where he's fought like always called out someone that's been like on top of their game. Like he hasn't called out sort of like the Spencers, the Crawfords, Ugas. Like, and when I say call out, I mean like with chest. Like he hasn't said like let's get on. It's always been like,
Yeah.
oh, I want to be like world champion. Like, yeah, I don't mind fighting them. Like I'm top
Yeah.
5 in the WBC or like he hasn't really like said it with chest that he wants to fight them or he believes he could beat them. Like really and truly, he should be in the mix with Ortiz, Stenosis, Boots. Like he should be in that sort of group, like sort of like Jocelyn
Yeah.
C. Like he's the best one. And even sort of like when other people have been calling him out, sort of what's the guy's name? The Albanian fighter.
Oh, Ennis.
No, the Albanian one. The Albanian one. The
Oh, Marku. That's
Mark.
it.
Yeah. Like even
Yeah.
like when like he's calling him out, he's looking down on him like he's not worthy of being in the same ring as him or whatnot. And I feel
Yeah.
like Ben hasn't like when you look at Ben's like CV, he hasn't earned the right to sort of like look down at these sort of opponents. Do you know what I mean? Like in
Yeah.
fact he should be taking those kind of opponents there to say, look, I've beaten this person. Now let me show you why I deserve to like move up into sort of like upper echelon.
The only issue, yeah, like you said, his CV, he still hasn't even proven that he could beat domestic level fighters, for example.
Yeah,
But
but he
he
won't.
should,
He won't. The thing is, he won't because he won't take the fights. He won't
yeah,
take the fight.
and also, but then also profile wise, the issue is he's quite big. Where, like, let's say for example, I forgot who it was, but someone suggested, oh, a good fight for Conor Benn would be, for example, take on Echo Usman because I think Echo's the British champion and the
Yeah,
Commonwealth champion, if I remember. Echo's a brilliant fighter. The issue is Echo's name isn't that huge. He's not that big of a
yeah,
star, so that won't attract Connor to the table, say, you know, we're going to
yeah,
get this much money because they're not. It's just not going to attract that much attention. So I get why they're going for the names, but go for the big names like for example, if you fought Virgil Ortiz in America, it would be huge. If you fought Ennis
mm,
in America, it would be huge. If you fought Spence in Britain, it'd be huge. Crawford in Britain, it'd be huge. But for him, they know kind of we've got a fighter who we don't know where he's at, his levels at technically.
yeah,
We don't know where it's at. It's
yeah.
kind of we have to find a contender, put him in there, and then see.
And
But we
even
want
like
to
the
see a
contenders
product.
like they're bringing up here, they're all like washed and whatnot. It's not as if he's fighting like a.
No, that's why they're
Uh,
not giving him contender. That's why they're not, because they know that if he loses, the product is finished. The product finishes.
I'm trying to think of like some names that they could fight. Maybe like sort of what's the guy that Crawford fought?
Avenisin.
No, the one that dropped Crawford. What's his name?
Oh, Savali
Mean
Estes.
Machine.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, like someone like that sort of caliber. Like, do you know what I mean? That level of fighter, like that will determine where uh Connor is. Or even I like to see him like up against like someone like Kennerson. But of course, Connor's not gonna want to take that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the issue with Conor Benn. We've had this. I remember me, you, and Sam. So when Conor was going up, we were the three guys that saying, you know what, I don't believe in this guy, because I remember everyone in the group chat was like, you know, Conor Benn might do something. He might become a world champion or
And he's
whatever.
improved. Don't get me wrong, he's improved. Yeah, but I see straight through him, man. Like
Yeah, like
I like it wouldn't surprise me if like even like when he's calling out like Adrian Broner, like Broner was on his ass for about like 18 months. Like he was on the shelf for about like 12 months and he was calling him out. Like if Broner wasn't even active when he was calling him out, and it's just like this is so typical of Conor Benn.
even the Algerian Van Heerden fights, these were guys who they weren't really committed to sport before the pandemic, and then when the pandemic hit, they had to do other things to keep their business, to keep their livelihoods going. They saw this big payday, they had to come back. Obviously, it's a big payday.
Yeah,
Conor
of
Benn
course.
in the UK. Let's fight. But you could always tell that they were just there for the names and not really there to test him, and that's kind of bigged up his profile. But now you've got a situation where now you have to look for big fights. So, for example, if Conor Benn fights Pacquiao, where does he go next? He has to fight for a title, because who else can warrant similar types of interest in an event or money to Conor that would interest him to fight? It would be. That's why they did this whole Eubank situation, because that was a big fight that was going to get him money. Where even if he lost, he wouldn't really lose. Like it was, he moved up, whatever. And
it was like a safe space for him, wasn't it?
Remember when he went out to the Amir Khan and Kell Brook fight, and he was talking about fighting Kell Brook or Amir Khan? Like, that's on his mind. It's just these big fights. He doesn't really care about going for a title. And I said that when the Eubank Ben fight happened first. I said these two aren't worried about winning a world title. They just want money now. They're at that situation where it's too hard to go win a world title. Let me just go make more money. So I mean, I hope the Conor Benn situation gets resolved. I don't really care. I don't like, if whatever happens. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna do it properly, in terms of sanctioning him or whatever and doing the process properly, do it. If you're not, then there's just another guy that took PEDs. But it's just, I don't know. It's just like, but you're just dragging it out. Do you know what I mean? You're just dragging it out.
And the nastiest thing about all of this is he probably goes and beats Pacquiao as well. That's the nastiest thing about all of this. He probably goes and knocks out Pacquiao.
The worst thing is I'll probably watch it. Like,
I'll watch it. Don't get me wrong, I'll watch it, but I'm on it. Like, I won't be surprised if he knocks out Pacquiao. Like, honestly,
you just see the veins bursting from his neck. He's like, bro, come here, Pacquiao.
In the gym. I'll be crushing it in the gym.
We know he's crushing in the gym, man. It's a funny saga. It's very, very funny what he's doing, but it's highlight. The good thing though in the last few months, it's highlighted a lot of inconsistencies in boxing and the system, and the board as well, because the board have a hand in what because they were going to let the fight go. It
wasn't until that it got leaked, innit?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I hope that in the light of everything, the system can fix, but it usually doesn't. It's kind of that system where even when you see the inconsistencies, they don't really try to fix it. So, speaking of drug cheats, going to Paris this Saturday, Tony Yoka versus Carlos Takam. Yoka lost, I think it was a year. Was it a year ago or a couple months ago?
It felt like a year ago.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, he fought Martin Bacol in Paris, and he got battered, absolutely battered. I mean, I thought, if he loses, but he didn't just lose; he got absolutely battered. I mean, it was the type of battering where you kind of question your commitment to the sport. But he's come back. He's fighting Carlos Takam, former world title challenger. I think it's a good fight. I think this is a perfect comeback opponent, and for Tony, he could be under that sort of confidence, fragility, especially when you get battered by a guy like Bacoli like that. You kind of question when you how you take a punch, what happens when the punches start flying and when it doesn't go your way. Carlos Takam's the kind of guy, he starts off a bit rubbish, but then he kind of builds in the fight, and then if he does go out a bit, he'll get hit, he'll get stopped. But he's not a guy that you can bank on winning a fight. But it's a good opponent, because the one thing he does well is he'll stand in the middle and he'll try to swing off Yoka's head.
Yeah, he does love a trade-off.
He's really going to test that confidence of Yoka. What do you think of this matchup in France?
Like you said, it's a weird one, because Takam, he's gonna test like you said, like his mental. And Tony Yoka, he won gold, I believe.
Yeah.
Gold. So he's definitely got ability. He's definitely got ability, and he was once heralded as like the next prospect of like the heavyweight scene, but he hasn't really kicked on. It's gonna be interesting to see like how Yoka's like reacts, because like you said, that he did take a pasting off Martin Bacoli, and no disrespect to Martin Bacoli, but he's not the greatest fighter. He's not the greatest fighter. So to take a pasting off him, I don't know. It says a lot, because Bacoli hasn't necessarily been active either Like he's not necessarily the greatest. Yeah, where you would place Bukoli is probably European level, probably, or
Yeah,
maybe just above,
yeah, yeah,
maybe above European level. So there's sort of like the grey area between like European and world level. But you would have thought that Tony would have sort of like overcome that, and he didn't. So it's going to be interesting to see like how he navigates this fight because Takam isn't coming to box. He's not coming to box. He's coming to swing and to try to take off your head. And he's the sort of person where he will go out on his shield. He will definitely go out on his shield trying to swing. So if Tony can get through that, then it'll be interesting to see like where he kind of places in this sort of like in the heavyweight scene.
yeah. And by the way, when I started this off, when I called him a drug cheat, there's no evidence of him taking drugs, but he did get a ban because he missed 3 drug tests in 1 year. Let's be real. You don't miss 3 drug tests because you forgot to.
Three.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you don't forget to you don't miss 3 drug tests because you forgot to set the alarm or you took a left turn.
Yo, that cycle must have been crazy, boy.
Yeah, so that's why I said I'm not saying it for those that don't know Tony Yoka. That's why I said it. I'm not
Allegedly,
cool.
yeah.
But yeah, and the thing about
Is
Carl Takam
is it 10 or 12 rounds?
let me check. I'm presuming because it's a main event, it should be 12, but I could be wrong. 10. It's 10. It's actually 10. Yeah.
10. I had a feeling it was gonna be 10. I don't know why. I just felt like because it's like not necessarily a comeback fight, but it's sort of like there's sort of like warm, like sort of a soft launch in one of these heavyweights back into the scene. It felt like it was gonna be like a 10-round fight.
Yeah, and it sort of it might fit Yoka a bit better just because if the fight gets long, you want it to be 10 rounds rather than 12 rounds. But I mean, the thing about Carlos Takam's been he's been used recently by promoters. Not used in the sense they make sure they put their prospect heavyweights in front of him. His last fight was against
like a gatekeeper, innit?
Yeah, he saw that guy to look good against. He's the name because he fought for the world title. So you just put that on your prospects CV. Like he fought Makhmudov. Makhmudov's a brilliant Russian heavyweight and he lost that fight. And then before that he fought Joe Joyce. Then before that he fought Jerry Forrest. Before that, a couple fights before that he fought Derek Chisora. Obviously he lost that, and then it was Anthony Joshua. So he's kind of been like moving in and out of that sort of, I'd say, top 25, 30 range of fighters where that's the type of guy, that's the type of level he's been at. And with Tony, it's do or die time. This is where your career sort of gets, where you can make your career or you kind of break your career. Because I feel like if he takes another bad loss here, knockout loss, it's not going to be good for him. So it's going to be an interesting fight, man. I can't wait. What there's no, I don't think we're going to do a prediction league on this. You have to ask Lewis about that. But what would your predictions be if you had to give an early prediction about this?
Yoka on points, just because I think because of like the last couple of fights and like maybe like where he is mentally, he might just try and be cautious, and he's got the boxing pedigree, so I'm gonna go with him on points.
Yeah, same. I think Takam's got a big head on his shoulders. He's hard to put away. Even when AJ knocked him out, it was a bit iffy. That
8 rounds, AJ.
Yeah, and even then the referee had to step in. It wasn't like he flattened him on his back or whatever.
Even the Joe Joyce fight, like he landed a number of good shots on Joyce,
and he can take it. So he's shown. And I don't think Yoka's got that sort of debilitating power. I think he's got decent power to keep you honest, but not that. So I think it should be a good fight. Like, I agree with you. I think it should be a points decision for Yoka, and hopefully then if he wins, he can push on to something big because he needs something. He needs like AJ. He needs a confidence boost. So. And on the undercard, we've got Dan Aziz fighting Thomas Farrari, and they're fighting for the European title. I mean, what a throwback fighter Dan Aziz is. The guy won the Southern area, he won the English, he won the British, he won the Commonwealth, and his next fight after winning the Commonwealth is now fighting for the European belt. I mean, the guy's literally ticking off every single belt a British fighter could fight for, and more. Is there more?
He's doing it the right way. He's doing it the right way.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on Dan Aziz as a whole?
It kind of reminds me of like Frank Bruno, you know. Like
That's
he give me like Frank Bruno vibes in the sense where like his physique, he's stocky, he's short. Like he might not necessarily be like the most polished fighter, but he's gonna come there and try and whack your head off. As what is he, light heavy?
yeah,
Is it light heavy? Yeah.
yeah.
So he's not the biggest light heavy though, is he? He's quite
No,
short.
no. But
What is he?
that kind of works with his style though, because he's very
Yeah,
compact.
yeah. He's got the sort of like the bob and weave sort of like
Yeah, he's
on
5'10".
whatnot. 5'10", yeah. So yeah, he's he's someone that's worked hard. Obviously, all boxers work hard, isn't it? But he's someone that's had to do it like the hard way. Like he hasn't been given any like handouts or whatnot. And to be fair to him, he's done what he's needed. He's done what needed to be done to get to where he is. So kudos to him, man. He might not necessarily be the most talented fighter in the division, but he's probably got like one of the biggest hearts, and you can see that with the way he performs. He's always sort of like coming forward and whatnot.
Yeah, and we've had him on the pod last year, and he's kind of been true to his word because he said about all the domestic talents, he wants to sort of do a tournament with them because he wants to fight.
Oh yes, I remember that interview.
Yeah, and then he's stuck to his word because he fought a guy like Takam Piers, and Takam Piers I think he's like 6'7", like heavyweight,
Yeah.
and he's very tough to beat. He took
Yeah.
he took that fight on and beat him, and then he beat Rocky Fielding. And now he's fighting obviously for the European belt, and you can tell in his eyes that this isn't obviously he's focused on this fight, but it's sort of a gateway for him to get to the guys like like Boatsi, Yard, Callum Smith, because you can tell he wants those fights. But I can imagine him if he wins this belt, him getting pushed up the WBA rankings and then going, yeah, you can fight Bivol if you want, and he'll probably be like, yeah, cool, I'll fight him.
Yeah, he'll
Like,
take it. He'll take it.
yeah.
He's that way inclined. He will definitely take it. And it's weird because I can't correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't like Ben Whitaker just say like he would fight Dan Aziz in like his third fight or something
Yeah,
rubbish like that? And it's like when people talk like that, yeah, like you feel like Aziz doesn't get the credit he deserves because it's so I don't know. It's very like for Ben Whitaker to say that like he'll fight Dan Aziz in his third fight takes a lot of confidence. And Dan Aziz he's worked really hard to get to where he is. So I definitely feel like he doesn't get the credit he deserves.
Because they're two different types of fighters. Where Dan, he's been in the amateur scene, but he hasn't had that sort of glorious run in the amateur scene that Ben's had. And then because Ben's had that glorious run in the amateur scene, he kind of gets his media push, and everyone kind of favors him. They look at him, because even before he even went pro, people saying he's going to go win world titles and whatever. But with Dan, Dan's that proper rags to riches type story. He's still not at the riches, but he's getting there. And that no one believed in me. No one really I had to work my way up through the small hall shows, through the the tough fights that because when you're a Olympic medalist or you're an Olympian that comes in, they don't give you the tough fights straight away. But I had to go through the tough fights straight away, come up and then win all the belts, and now I'm here to the position of the European belt. And with Ben, is like, yeah, it was very disrespectful. But I think after that sort of Rocky Fielding fight, especially the way Dan beat him up, and Rocky Fielding was kind of I've never liked him, not liked him as in terms of boxing, because you could tell even at the weigh-ins he missed weight, he looked very fleshy. And it just looked very tailor-made for Dan Aziz. Like you're just setting Dan up to go to the body and just beat the crap out of you. But the way he's proven that on that level, that he's going up to the European level. If he wins here, the next thing is world level fights. And for Ben Whitaker, you haven't really proven much. For Ben Whitaker, all you've proven to the public is that you get injured every now and again, and that you need a lot of time before you can commit to boxing properly. Because I think he had 2 fights and then got injured again.
Yeah,
he was going to make his debut, got injured, so that got delayed for quite a bit. Had 2 fights, got injured. Now he's going to make his 3rd fight. They haven't announced it when, but they're obviously in the works. But yeah, Dan is that proper throwback. I don't have any push behind me. There's no promoter backing me like that. I'm working all on my own to make this, and it's really good to see. And I think hopefully he can go. I haven't seen who the guy he's fighting. I will take a look into the guy he's fighting, but I didn't get time to look at Thomas Farrow. But I hope he goes and wins the European title, and he proves to a lot of guys that in boxing you don't have to have that typical route of being the media darling of the Olympians or whatever. You can still do it the hard way, and getting up there, winning all the belts, and then because even if he becomes a European champion, do you know how hard that is for a boxer to win Southern, Commonwealth, and then European? Like, it's a good career that he would have had for himself, and there's only more to come from him. And he's proven he's more active than all these guys. Look at Boatzy, hasn't fought since Craig Richards. Look at Craig Richards, hasn't fought since Boatzy. He's fighting in April. Look at Callum Smith, only fought once in the against that European title holder. So that's the kind of level that Dan's kind of at. Yard, okay, fair enough. Yard fought Beterbiev, but they've only had like one fight in the last year, and he's had a couple.
Three. I think he had three.
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah, it would have been three because he would have fought. So he fought in March. In March 26th, he fought Reece Cartwright. Then he fought Shakan Peters. Then he fought Rocky Fielding. Then now he's fighting Thomas Farrow. So in the space of a year, he's already had 4 fights. You have to give him credit where credit's due. I mean, that guy's really putting in the work, and he's a man of his word. Like what he said in the interviews with us, a year on, he's been doing everything right. So
yeah,
we've got to give credit to that guy, man. Same thing with Denzel Bentley. Big credit to that. Both of them again, not the elite level Olympians that come in with the big media push, but when they get to a certain level, the British level, whatever, they're working hard. Like, and look at him. He fought Linus Udofia. He fought Marcus Morrison. Then he fought for a world title that he shouldn't. Let's be real. He shouldn't have fought for it because there were other people that just ducked. But he gave a really good account, and now he's fighting again April 15th. That's like so many fights in such quick succession.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure they're stable mates, aren't they?
Dan Aziz and Denzel Bentley.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
I think they're under the same banner.
You can tell like they probably both motivate each other to keep going and keep pushing each other to. They're probably having a competition who can have the most fights in the strong. But we give credit to all these other fighters, but we got to give credit to these type of fighters who go unnoticed for their hard work and who they're beating and what they're doing. So big up Dan, man, and I hope he really does get the job done. And Sky better push him.
We'll be supporting him.
Yeah, Sky better push him. That guy's got every single belt that you need before world title. Like in my eyes, if someone said, like, let's say you had a fighter that's really good, what's the path you would take? It would be the Dan Aziz route of winning every single belt, notching that up, and then knowing that you're ready for the world level.
Yeah, so not many fighters do that. So big him up.
Yeah, I mean, he's the first British boxer. I think he's the first British boxer or British light heavyweight boxer to win all the British Boxing Board of Controls. He's the first and only British light heavyweight to capture all British Boxing Board of Control domestic titles. That's a huge achievement, man. So big up Dan. Can't big him up. I can't big him up even more. He's big him up. So just to end it off, we've got some listeners' question and answers. I'm gonna let you have this because I don't know about these questions, mate. Is YouTube boxing the way forward? Mark, what do you think?
No. And I say that because boxing's a skill. It's an art. It's a skill, and it's something you can't mimic. It's something you can't learn overnight. It's something you can't dilute. And yes, it's entertaining for like the casuals and whatnot, but it's also people's livelihood. Like some people do it because they have a family to feed. Some people do it because it's like it's the only way out, and it's bloody tough, man. Like it's literally like you see the work that these guys put in. Like a lot of these guys are away from their families for so long. Some of them miss like the birth of their children and whatnot. Nah, you've got to respect the skill levels and whatnot. And it's just the skill is just crazy. It's not something you can just sort of like wake up and decide, I could be a boxer. Like let me just fling on some gloves, headgear, and throw some punches. Nah, it's a great skill to learn, to have. And I'm not really with the YouTube thing. Like it's fun to watch, don't get me wrong, but like wake up on a Saturday morning or Sunday morning at 2 a.m. and watch Crawford and marvel at their level of skill rather than watch, I don't know, KSI or Salt Pappy or whatever their names are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think I don't think obviously I don't think it's the way forward, but I think it's going to be here for maybe in the
yeah,
next 2-3 years. But the thing about one of the big differences about the sport, about the two different sports, I say they're two different sports, YouTube boxing and boxing, is boxing will always have talents coming through because they're born every day and then they'll take up boxing and they'll go to the Olympics or they'll go to the amateur scene and they'll become pro. YouTube boxing kind of relies on the profile before the boxer. So they need
yeah,
the gut. So they need someone that's on the level of Jake Paul in terms of
yeah,
influencer to
yeah,
go. Oh, let me go to boxing and turn on. Like
yeah.
as soon as Jake Paul and KSI leave, 90% of the interest in
I,
YouTube
I
boxing
think it'll
goes
be
up.
dead within 2 years. 2 years, I think
Yeah,
it'll be dead.
but there are some things you can take away from it, which I think will help boxers. Is you need
The
to look at these
marketing,
influencers.
the
Yeah,
marketing
the
behind it.
marketing,
Yeah,
perfect. Yeah, building that fan base, that loyal fan base. I mean, look at KSI. The guy can sell a bullshit drink and like sell it for millions not because
yeah,
it's a good drink, but because of the marketing. And that's why people say if Jake Paul KSI happens, there's a chance that we could get 1 million pay-per-view buys for it, which is huge in boxing. 1 million
yeah,
pay-per-view buys is not an easy feat, but it's because of their loyal fan base. So that's the kind of stuff you should take away. But anything other than that, nah, YouTube boxing is the only thing. Let people enjoy what they want to enjoy. I don't have any issues with it. I just know it's not
yeah,
proper boxing. But let
yeah,
them. It's entertaining, like you said, and let people
yeah,
people want to watch that. And but it's not the way forward. No way.
yeah.
Another question: thoughts on boxers joining WWE like Mayweather and Tyson Fury? I'll just quickly say it's a good thing. I think if you not joining it like fully joining it, but if you go and like do cameos and like you do like with one storyline runs with them, it's good for boxers because it gets you more.
More eyes in it. More,
Yeah, because when Mayweather went on it, he then went on Dancing with the Stars and stuff like that. So he was always on the screens. People will always know. That's why he became a household name because
yeah,
he was always in everyone's screens. People knew about him. Same thing with Tyson Fury when he did that run with WWE. It's good, and especially if you're a boxer that's very charismatic, you've got a bit of star power about you. Go on it. If you're like Joe Joyce, don't go on it because you'll just be so dead to watch, man.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
can't talk. You have no charisma. Don't because WWE is literally the acting part of the
Yeah,
charisma. The entertainment.
exactly.
So if whichever boxers that have that career, like for example AJ, I wouldn't want to see AJ on WWE. I don't think that will suit him.
I don't think he's got the minerals for it, man. Like I said,
Yeah,
like it's acting in it. Like there's certain boxers that play a role and they play it really well, and there's certain boxers that are just boxers, and you got to let the actors and boxers, or like the villains per se, do that. So
yeah,
like the likes of Eubanks or the Adrian Browners of the world, like they're perfect for like that little crossover. But anyone else, nah.
yeah. I agree. And but it's a good outlet for guys to want to make their brand a bit bigger. So if you're
Mm,
charismatic boxer, do it, please. And I've been advocating for guys like Ryan Garcia, Javante Davis, not just WWE, but to like use the American media machine and push
yeah.
yourself so hard in that. Like it's just such a missed opportunity. And just the last thing, Anthony Joshua is finished. Thanks, mate. That was a brilliant message. We'll see on April 1st if he actually is finished. I mean, but when that do you see what happened with the ticket sales for that? Apparently, it's
No.
not doing too well.
Well, AJ.
Yeah, apparently. Let me see now if I can actually buy a ticket. Because if I can buy a ticket now and the fight's in a few things, this is mad. I think I
When is
can
it?
go now.
April.
O2. Yeah,
Is it
first
April?
of April. Yeah, 1st of April. Buy tickets.
I
Let me
think
see.
with that, yeah, like every fighter needs a dance partner in it, and Franklin isn't the best dance partner. Like
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
uh, especially with the whole Dylan White thing. Well, he probably won that fight, to be fair, but I think a lot of people anticipated the AJ
Oh wow.
White fight. Do you manage to get one?
I can buy literally right now. I can buy 6 70-pound tickets.
That's not a good
Mondo.
look, to be fair.
That it doesn't tell me because it's on Axis, and your Axis doesn't, like you buy
Yeah.
the ticket, but it doesn't tell you what seat you have. It only it doesn't show
Yeah.
it. But that's mad. That is mad that you can buy these tickets
The
now.
thing about Matchroom is that like they will push out Matchroom Zone, whatever it is. They will push out the whole promotional company, and give it a week or so. We'll be hearing about like this fight and how massive it's going to be, and this is like the start of the comeback, and it's going to be like AJ versus Deontay Wilder, and like the end of the back end of the year and whatnot. So I wouldn't put it past Eddie to sort of like wheel out the promotion band and just start going crazy.
Hey, if you want to give us guys at Ringside Fracas some exempt passes, hey, I wouldn't mind some. It would be a good weekend.
You deserve it, man, because you've been putting a lot of work. Like I don't think people understand the amount of keep him, man. Even like we spoke about Dan Aziz, and people won't even realize, but I remember in a group chat, like you did some digging and you just like, I think Dan Aziz is gonna fight this person, and like no one really knew who it was and whatnot, and it came to fruition. But just because your intuition and your sort of knowledge of the sport and whatnot, and again, I think that's why I think like if you were to get tickets and whatnot, you deserve it, because you do put a lot of work behind, like you do put a lot of work into this, innit? So carry on doing what you do, man.
Thank you, bro. I really appreciate it. But it's boxing. I love this sport so much. So that's why we just got to, and hopefully we can take this channel to further reaches, and we can do stuff we've only been dreaming of in the future. So thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that.
No love, no worries, bro. It's all love.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, but and just on your point about the AJ thing, if they do AJ White, they'll sell out.
Sorry, say that again, please.
If they do AJ White, they'll sell out. They'll sell out.
Like, yeah. To be fair, it should have been AJ White anyway, but
yeah,
I think with the way White's performed,
yeah.
I don't think anyone wants to see that. I think White's probably worse off now than he is when AJ first fought him.
But the build-up will be good, though. I think that's kind of what will push it a lot.
Yeah,
is fighting and all that in between. So
yeah, of course,
it's something to look forward to, and especially I think people will go into that fight not really looking for it as a boxing match, but a fight. They want to see two guys
yeah.
beat the
And
crap out of each other.
I think AJ will probably oblige to it. Like I think there's certain fights where he thinks where he feels like he has to fight, and there's certain fights where he probably feels he has to box, and feel like regardless of what, like whatever, regardless of what it is, he'll always feel like he needs to fight against Dillian White. And I don't know why that is. It must be the rivalry, but that is not going to be a boxing match. It's always going to be a fight.
Yeah. I mean, that's perfectly put. It's that one's a fight. I think we'll leave it there for today. So thank you, Mark, for joining us today. Hopefully we'll have you on in the future more frequently. Love your opinions. You, like I said, you're one of the experts in the group chat. So it's great. It was an honor having you on today, and hopefully we can hopefully we can get you on more. So please give us 5 stars on Spotify, Apple Podcasts if you're listening there. Like, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Follow our Twitter at Ringside Fracas for more updates, for tweets, for thoughts, anything. And we'll see you next week after a good round of fights. Peace.
Safe.